son said to me today, are you going into London tonight, Dad? He's 8 years old. He was 8 yesterday. And I said, yeah. He said, why are you going? I said, I'm working, son. He said, are you making money? And I thought about explaining the junior resource sector to him, but then he was a bit distracted by a basketball, so I left him to it. Power Metal Resources is a failed company in the past. If you go back to 2018, it was suspended pending financial clarification. AIM doesn't normally suspend shares for any reason, so it was quite an interesting outcome. We refinanced, restructured, and set about a process over the last 3 years of putting a portfolio together. Global exploration, 14 projects across 3 continents. This is our disclaimer. It means don't believe anything I say to you and do your own research. And please do, because we have a website that Meta, our investor relations manager, has built for us. It has all the information on there, fact sheets. We produce quarterly reports. We produce the level of information that I think a private investor in particular needs to make a decision about their investment. So this is us, a failed company, restructured, refinanced, brought back to life. We've done it focused on district scale opportunities, because if you're in the junior resource space as an investor, you should not try and make 2 times your money. You should be going for 10 times and more. As a company, you should not be paying directors' salaries and focused on keeping the corporate overhead unpaid. You should be focused on gregarious exploration, trying to make the people, Gladys in Glasgow, Bert in Birmingham, significant returns on their money. People who stake money with a company in the junior resource space take great risk, deserve great respect, and deserve you to really try and make a difference in their lives. And that's what we try to do at Power. This is our board of directors. They're an ugly bunch, in fairness, as you'll see on the screen. And we were hoping to improve the quality of the board with some new recruits that we're working on at the moment. So hopefully some board announcements to broaden the strength of our board team. I'm the largest shareholder. Well, the largest notified shareholder at the moment, with just over 5%. I have this strange belief that if you're going to take people's money and salary and run an entrepreneurial AIM company, you ought to have some of the shares yourself. And those shares have been purchased with real cash. They've not been done with fee offsets or anything else. It's real money that's been paid into the bank account of the company. I'm quite happy to have that audited or validated, and it's important. It's my money at stake. It's lost quite a bit in the last year or so, it has to be said. I'm not worried in the slightest. I know my business and I know what we can do with this business portfolio. So here's the business model. The normal model is that as a junior exploration company in the resource space, I raise money. I spend it, I hope I get lucky and find something big. My share price goes up, I raise more money, I pay myself a big bonus, and the cycle continues until, with the cyclicity of the junior resource markets, where you go from a peak to a trough to a peak to a trough until my time runs out. I dilute my shareholders to death and I have to leave the business. We don't want to do that. Any cyclical markets, you have to make sure that there are exit points for your investors along the way. And in this case, I'm the largest shareholder, so we have to do this right. So we bring projects in, and we brought in 14 projects over 3 years. We do initial exploration on all of them to understand if our optimism is backed up by the metal in the ground. And then that increases the valuation of many of our projects, as it has done, and it enables us to dismiss those projects that are not worthy. Once we do that, we make a decision. Do we want to carry on internally and progress that project, or do we want to dispose of it outside the business and crystallize some value quickly? Sometimes projects are better in their own listed vehicles, and currently we are involved with 4 separate junior resource company IPOs that are happening. Some are more advanced than others. First Class Metals, Golden Metal Resources, First Development Resources, and New Ballarat Gold Corporation. We hope, of course, that our spin-outs or our disposals generate us considerable value and build our balance sheet as we go forward. And a proportion of that value will be distributed to our shareholders. And we're making preparations to do that just now with a capital reduction exercise through the High Court. For the projects that we take forward, we're ambitious, we're gregarious, and we'll carry on exploration, but we'll focus our attention on them because it's important as a business as we move into a more positive phase in this cycle that we have a number of lead internal exploration projects. And one of those areas that we will be focusing on is the uranium sector, because we think uranium has a major future. And there are many listed companies in Canada covering uranium. There are quite a few in Australia. There are very few in London. And I haven't put the model up, have I? There we go. I got it right, though, in fairness, so I can get a tick in that box. So here we are with our global projects operations around the world. I am not going to bore you to death and take you through everything. Please refer to our website. Have a look at our RNS feed. You'll find there's a huge amount of information on there. And in our quarterly business reports that we provide to the market, in line with the Canadian and Australian exchanges, you'll find an awful lot more information about what's happening right now. Targeting 10 metals across 3 continents, multiple projects, some of which we will take forward and some of which we are in the process of crystallizing value from. And we pick these metals because we think they all have dramatic potential. Metal prices may have fallen recently, but they're still very strong. Metal stocks are on the floor. The optimism in the junior resource space is desperately bad. And we're, generally speaking, as a population, the resource investors, extremely worried. I can't think of a better set of circumstances to be building a junior resource company, because you don't want to be happy, clappy investing at the top when it's about to fall off the cliff. You want to be here right now, because I think we have an opportunity from this point to make people considerable returns. So, very quickly moving forward, and I will not hold you up for much longer. I want to take you through some of our projects. Most of our projects we've pegged ourselves, as they say. We've staked the ground, we've found the opportunity, and we've done our own internal work. We haven't bought most of our projects. Canada is wonderful because what happens in such as the uranium space is that for many years people do exploration. Then the uranium price drops. They have to lodge that exploration online. You can get the reports of their work, and you come along a few years later, as we did, and you can acquire the benefits of that work by just going online. And then you can go and stake and peg the ground that is highly valuable on the basis of the millions or tens of millions of dollars of work done by someone else. That's what we did. So we secured our 7 properties over 450 square kilometers, taking a strategic position in the heart of the Athabasca Basin when other people were just starting to move. And now we have a tremendously valuable portfolio with significant potential, because our ground isn't just pegged for the sake of it, it's pegged with a reason based on the work others have done. We think the uranium properties will be considerably valuable as we move forward, and the uranium price almost inevitably rises dramatically. Malopo Farms complex in Botswana, we started out with a 2,700 square kilometer piece of ground to explore. A dramatic amount of land, and we did lots of preparatory work. That's the other thing. Before you drill holes, check the ground first. We had helicopters up with booms, we had ground geophysics, we had lots of technical work being done, and then we put the first 3 holes in the ground a year or so ago, and in the second hole we struck up to 1.7% nickel, and nickel sulfides too, the holy grail commodity. Quite a miraculous result. Anyway, anyone familiar with Remington from a few years ago, and the Remington microscreen shaver, Victor Kayam, he liked it so much he bought the company. Well, we effectively just bought Kalahari Key, which owned part of this project, and taken ourselves to 88% of it. And we want to get cracking drilling because we've actually got nickel sulfides, and now we need to go and find that big deposit. Tati project in Botswana, we acquired this for very little in terms of initial outlay in mid-2021. By the time we got to October 21, we'd done 3 exploration programs on the ground, and we'd started drilling. We were looking for gold and nickel. Well, we didn't find the nickel, but we found the gold. And we found from soil sampling that gave us what seems to be quite small grades, but grades don't really matter. 10 parts per billion. We drilled underneath and we found near surface gold. Our best result was 3 meters of 5 grams a ton gold from 9 meters down, which was a bit of a windfall result for us. Then we worked out, based on the system and the drill results, that the really hot areas were just outside the ground that we had ourselves. It was in the next door neighbor area, but it wasn't pegged. There wasn't a license over it. So we quietly went and pegged that license. And that area, which is part of the same gold system, has results of 100 parts per billion at surface. So we're very excited. We think we've got a significant gold target in Botswana. Now, a few years ago, working for Metal Tiger PLC as CEO, we found the T3 copper discovery in Botswana. And there's been lots of conversation about copper in Botswana, but not an awful lot of late about gold. We think we might be onto one of the first fresh stories. So we're going to do some more drilling there and see what we can find. In Australia, and I'm whipping you around the world here, we have in Victoria one of the largest landholdings. Do you remember that lockdown one in early 2020 that ruined our lives? Well, I was at home and we were busy pegging ground ourselves in Victoria, building a license application package of circa 2,300 square kilometres of ground. Those were applications. We've had 1,832 granted square kilometres now, over 14 licenses. We have one of the largest land packages for a reason. Victoria is very, very prospective for gold. There are gold workings and mines everywhere. There's one mine within our own property that produced hundreds of thousands of ounces of gold a while ago at 15 grams a tonne, which is a stonking amount of recovery. But in 100 or so years ago, the miners that were developing Victoria found out about Kalgoorlie in Western Australia, and so they all left. But they left before the party had finished and before all the gold had been extracted. So Victoria is now one of the most popular areas for gold exploration and development, and we have a significant part of it within our portfolio. In Nevada, USA, in the last year, we've built Gold and Metal Resources. This is one of our planned spin-out vehicles, a vehicle we're taking into an IPO, listing in London. And we built it based on 4 projects, the main one called Pilot Mountain. A few years ago, I was on the board of Thor Mining, and Thor previously held Pilot Mountain. Thought it was a very nice project, dramatically sized tungsten, silver, copper, zinc project. I was attracted to it for the tungsten. Nobody really in the right mind is attracted to tungsten, unless it goes through one of its demand phases. And in the United States, the Geological Survey produced earlier on this year a list of critical minerals, which includes tungsten on the list. There is no primary mined production of tungsten in the United States. They import it, or they get it from recycling, or they use various other reserves. They don't produce it. So to hold a strategic tungsten opportunity just at the time when the United States is saying we need homeland security is a very big step, and we're delighted to have that. Gold and Metal Resources has its own website, and you can see more information on there or on the Power Metal website itself. But in less than a year, we've built an entire package of projects focused in Nevada, USA, one of the best mining jurisdictions in the world. And we put it through the IPO process. We're nearing the end of that process. We think we've got a very attractive package. I've felt as a private investor over the years always drawn to North American exploration projects. There's a natural affinity in the UK market for them, and we think it will be a great success when it lists. Finally, First Development Resources. This is a package that's just entered its IPO process. We raised £1.125 million in a pre-IPO fundraise. We announced that a few weeks ago. It's focused on projects in Western Australia and the Northern Territory. Was anyone in the audience involved with Greatland Gold? Okay, hopefully at the right time. Greatland Gold was a company, the major depositing Havieron gold deposit in Western Australia. It was a deposit that was found on the basis of surface work. The deposit was quite deep down, and they were targeting magnetic bullseye style geology. There's lots more information about this on our website, so you can see the story. We have similar targets, strikingly similar in some cases, in our ground in First Development Resources in Western Australia. We also have a large license area called CELTA project in the Northern Territory, just up from Nolan's Bore, which is a very large rare earths deposit that's going into production and is held by a company called Arafura Resources. And we're targeting lithium, potentially rare earths and uranium at our CELTA projects. And that package, First Development Resources, is going through a IPO process for a planned listing again in London. London doesn't have many resource companies. Canada has thousands. Australia has hundreds. We have, I don't know, less than 100. So I think there's a huge opportunity with a significant investor base in London to build more listed opportunities. And that's what we're doing. So crystallize, just go back to that point. Final couple of slides before we finish. There is no point in our business investing in a junior resource company that simply explores unless you're a very good trader investor. You have to buy in at the right time, and arguably I'd say now was a pretty good time in the space in general because it's pretty crushed. And then you have to sell at the right time being when everyone's having a party. When you come to events like this, my company is at 20 pence a share and the room is packed full. No one's in the bar. You know, everyone's sat next day. And that's the time to walk away and leave the party, usually. So we feel we have to crystallize value as we go. So we built a very large portfolio, and we're now contracting it through disposals to generate value for our balance sheet that we can, in time, distribute to shareholders. Where we are right now is here. You can see on the left-hand side, we have our current listed company investments. On the right-hand side, you can see the pre-IPO investments. Those are the vehicles going into listings. I hope the left-hand side will grow dramatically as we move forward. And the right-hand side will likely continue to build as well. And from this business, as we contract down and we start to focus on more traditional exploration, we will have some of the best projects to explore in our business. And we'll have investments in some of the best packages there is in London, in the London capital markets in resource exploration. Building a large balance sheet and building a large exploration business, fully funded, able to explore at pace and grow dramatically. And one final thing, if you wish to contact us, please do. We have an office. We're based in Farnborough, can you believe that, near the airport? I just figured when Junior Resources kicks off, we'll be able to park the private plane there and it won't be too far from the office. You are welcome to come. If anyone is interested in seeing how we work, please do. We have an office with 8 people. We're working professionally. We have geologists. We have marketing and communications accountants. I'm an accountant for my sins. We do a huge amount of work, and anyone that wants to learn a bit more about our business or the junior resource sector itself, then please come along and we'd be happy to have you. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Yep. So I'll just start with a couple of really good questions that have come through online, Paul, if that works for you.
Of course.
There's a question here about the IPO timeline. So an eagle-eyed investor has noticed that one of the IPOs, well, actually tell us if this is true, that New Ballarat Gold has been pushed back a bit, the IPO. And they're asking here about, what is your response to the current climate? How has that affected the timelines you might have hoped for a year ago?
How was what affected, sorry?
So basically, the IPO pipeline, so the conditions of the market, are you looking to put some of these IPOs back as you've done, I think the question is saying, with one of them so far?
Okay, what people expect you to do is to list new vehicles at the top of the market because they feel very bubbly and warm inside. And it's the worst possible thing you can do. If you're hitting the top of the market's about to go over the top and crash to the bottom. And the best time to list anything is when the sector that you're in is experiencing that horrible trough and then a recovery. And if you get your timing right and you bring a vehicle onto the market when that sector is recovering on the market, then you see a dramatic uplift in valuation, because fresh vehicles into a positive market climate that is just recovering see the biggest upside potential. I don't want to bring any vehicle onto the market and see it lose half its value in 4 weeks, and I don't think we need to. We probably have been fortuitous in that the IPOs that processes we've been undertaking have taken longer than we anticipated. But I think it's probably going to position us perfectly in terms of bringing a vehicle to market in the right conditions. I'm a little bit crazy because I actually think this sector will start to rise soon. And I know most people don't.
Excellent. And there's a second question here about the impact of warrant conversions on the share price recently, and whether you feel that's an outdated model.
Well, when we issued warrants, we always issued them at a considerable premium to the then share price. So for those warrants to be exercised and converted means that I've done my job, which is to drive the price considerably higher than the warrant price. Can they affect the pricing? And yes, we're in a very difficult thin market where you're coming towards the end of a warrant batch, which we are with the company at the moment. We've got 3 weeks left until the final 0.75 warrants expire. Then yes, it can affect the price and it can affect the momentum of the stock, but that's a temporary phenomenon. What the warrants have done for our business over the 3 years, the conversions that we've had, they put us in the position to be able to invest in new opportunities and in the exploration work for those new opportunities. They put us now in a position at the bottom of the market, just on the edge, I believe, of a major recovery in our space, with, I think, the strongest exploration portfolio I've ever seen. And we would not be here if we'd have had limited capital. And I know there's a great belief that perhaps the best way to raise money for a business is just do a discount through a broker. But the reality is, the price you often raise at and the discount that you have to take if you're reliant upon brokers, entirely to give you capital, it can be quite painful and difficult. For me, the warrant model has worked. Would I use it in the same way going forward? No, because you have to adapt your model to the market conditions and to where you want to take the business. We're not acquiring at the moment as a business, really. We've stopped doing that. We're disposing, and we're building balance sheet value through another way. And that balance sheet value will help fund our business for the many years to come.